What's up, you guys? Adam here with Anabolic Climbing, and today we're going to talk about what to do before going on cycle. I was talking to a subscriber a little bit earlier today on Instagram, and he was mentioning that he was going to get on, and, I'm just going to pass on to you guys the exact same advice that I pass on to him, and really anybody considering getting on anabolics, for no other reason than it's important to have everything in order before you commit to this lifestyle. So, hang out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Get ready, because the mad scientist of rock climbing is about to get going. So, what is your checklist? What should you have? The bare minimum, 2 rounds of lab work. You should get blood work at least twice before, for a couple of reasons. One, figure out if your testosterone is okay or not. TRT isn't going to make a big difference if you're going from 600 or 700 to 800 to 1,000. It's going to be an improvement for sure. It'll definitely raise the floor for you and lower the ceiling. You're going to get better recovery. But you should figure out if you're actually training and getting your health markers at your optimum. And more importantly, and I can't emphasize this enough, this is probably going to be the healthiest you are before you start introducing other drugs and potentially some underground lab compounds. So you should get your shit together. Got bad A1C, or you're starting to look pre-diabetic, great time to get on some metformin or some retatrutide. Or your lipid screwed, time to get some ezetimibe. Have some gyno. I promise you, anabolics will not make this better. Do you have some P5P for your high prolactin? More importantly, do you have your shit together in the gym? Are you consistent with your diet? Are you hitting your protein regularly? Do you know how to eat enough? Do you know how to lose weight? If the answer to any of these are no, or if you're not prepared to start addressing these issues in your first round of lab work, turn back now. You're not ready. You need to earn your drugs. So what next? Do you have anxiety or depression? Not uncommon. If you do, 19 NORs, your trenbolones, your decas, these are not for you. I promise you, adding something that's going to crank up your anxiety will not help you in the slightest. And above all, this is probably one of the more important PSAs that I could say. If you like to party, anabolics are not for you. Cannot emphasize that enough. Particularly the stimulants. You do not need to be raising your blood pressure while getting on amphetamines, cocaine, MDMA, alcohol. You do not need to be taxing your liver and your heart when you're already taxing your liver and your heart. Get this phase of your life completely out of your system before you start this journey. Look, in the rock climbing community, we like to party, and dude, no shame in that. Me, my coach, all of my friends, pick a rec drug. I've probably tried it and probably had a great time. I have not touched a single thing since getting on anabolics. I will probably have a single glass of champagne at my buddy's wedding this weekend, and that's basically going to be the entire drug history of me since getting on cycle. And again, it's not because I want to. It's because that's what he does, and it's fine, if we're going to do one, we'll do one. But I could honestly not drink again and be completely content with that. And the same goes for weed. It's neurotoxic. It's neurodegenerative. You end up starting to speak slower. As a guy that smoked way more weed than is reasonable or necessary in California, where it is super strong, I promise you I feel dramatically better not smoking than I ever did on. Again, you also don't need the anxiety from it, or the inconsistency in the brain fog. So, now that we know that you fixed your health markers, you're not drinking, you're consistent in the gym, you're good on your diet, where do you go from there? Am I ready to start pinning test? You can, but I would proceed with caution. In general, I think, and I recommend this to everybody, if you were a dude, start with HCG and carnitine. And there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, you should get used to injecting with low risk consequence, right? Number one, both HCG and carnitine are super innocuous. If you have a bad pin, not a big deal. But number two, you're going to figure out if this is for you or not without down-regulating your HPTA. I don't like the idea of people deciding whether or not they like injecting themselves with testosterone and potentially giving themselves some level of shutdown without having anything on deck to re-stimulate the HPTA. If you've got some Clomid, if you have some HCG around, I mean, fine, I guess. But, like, decide if this is for you, man, in a low-consequence environment. Because, and more importantly, these are awesome training wheel compounds. You can take HCG and get legitimate improvement in your testosterone, or in your total testosterone. Plus, you're going to start feeling effects at a lower level than you would on test. So, when I first started taking HCG, I had COVID, and my libido was still absolutely insane. I could not stand up, but, still absolutely, like, ready, willing, and eager on vacation with the wife. Amazing. As far as, like, carnitine, I had better mental clarity to that than I had in years. Like, I'm talking decades. I had chronic fatigue and did not know that until I started taking carnitine and was like, oh, I just feel normal. And you can do that and have improved blood markers without ever needing to touch test. And you can figure out, are you able to pin consistently 3 times a week for your HCG, starting at 200 IUs, going up to 330? Are you able to hit carnitine daily on, like, a larger shot? And if the answer to these things is yes, you can ask yourself, do you like it? Are you comfortable pinning every day? Are you comfortable pinning 3 times a week? Is this a thing that, like, you're squeamish about, or something that you're actually amped in the morning to, like, get up and get after it with your cup of coffee? Because if that's the answer, anabolics might be for you. But if it's, like, not a thing that you're into and you try it and you realize this isn't a thing and it freaks you out, dude, that's okay. You don't need to go down this journey. It might not be for you. And I would much rather you figure that out with something low stakes that will actively improve your blood markers and improve your overall health than something that could potentially set you back, and then you'd have to deal with the depression of not being on test, having to restart your endocrine system. It's just a better way to get started. So, the last thing I'm going to say about this, don't be stupid about hygiene. We just remembered Logan Dishman almost killing himself from, like, reusing needles. First off, Sharps containers are easy to acquire on Amazon for 10 or 20 bucks. Needles, same thing, can be purchased on Amazon, and if they can't where you live, like I am in California, use Google. There's no reason to reuse needles. We are not children, we are adults. And I promise you, you will have a better experience for this. In addition, have alcohol prep pads. These things are non-negotiable. If you are unable to do the bare minimum of hygiene, you are not ready for injections. And I cannot emphasize that enough. So, you've got your checklist. You've been managing your health markers. You've been pinning HCG and carnitine. You've got your labs. You're improving, but you're ready to, like, take that next step. What do? You could go to a doctor for TRT. And, like, I think that's the best way to go in general. Getting pharmaceutical grade drugs is always the best answer. You're probably going to get stuck with test sip, which is not my favorite. I personally prefer propionate. Most people prefer an anthate. But, like, perfectly fine. And more importantly, you're going to have something from a pharmacy that is regulated instead of, like, who knows what from the underground. And, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Do you want to get some other things on deck? Like everything that I just mentioned, whether it's your metformin, your Retta, an aromatase inhibitor, some ezetimibe for your cholesterol. Like, dude, all of these things are great things to have on hand if you need them, if you want to plan for them. And also, If you decide that like testing out some of the underground lab compounds is a thing you have to do, like that's just who you are, like I am, you can get some steroid test kits and make sure you're taking what you're taking. Because listen to me, man, it would be potentially disastrous if you think you're taking one thing and you get another. You think you're taking Anavar and you're getting Ostarine, that's a problem for your liver. You think you're taking Masteron and it's actually Primobolan, that could have impacts on your cycle, but probably not. In the event that you're thinking you're getting Deca and you're getting like who knows what, these could be bad. And honestly, it's just way better to be certain about the things that you are now injecting into your body than to just go blind. A good friend of mine, at one point, we were having this conversation, and he's like, yeah, man, I've been taking like Test and Anavar, and like things are going well. And I'm like, cool, have you done blood work? No. Then how do you know what you're taking? Well, I'm getting like decent results. I'm like, who knows what you're taking? Dude gets his labs back, and his test is in the toilet, and his blood markers are garbage. And he's like, how could this be? And I'm like, you were not taking tests. If you were taking 200 milligrams of test a week, your test would not be 200 nanograms per deciliter, bro. What are you talking about? So, like, it's important to check your work and to double check. You know, now he's on TRT and he's gotten his labs back and he's feeling great, and that's amazing. And I'm glad that I could help him with that. But, like, I don't want these outcomes for anyone that's listening to this. And it's so easy to avoid. So, what else? The last thing I would say is when you start getting on anabolics and you're training, I would highly encourage you for the first couple weeks to hold back in the gym consciously. I know your first inclination is to feel good and feel strong and just get after it and like use all that drive, and eventually you should. But in the beginning, you just added some nitrous to the car, and you should figure out what that feels like. I remember my first couple weeks when I was on VAR, I felt like I was pulling through my fingers. And to be honest, I'm glad that I made the intention to hold back a bit, because that's potentially injury preventing. Nothing would feel dumber than you getting on and you're feeling awesome and you just hurt yourself immediately. That's clownish, and like I don't want that for you either. So, you know, take it from me as a guy that's been in the trenches now for a little bit, that holding back a bit or potentially taking some time off the wall and doing this on a hangboard while you acclimate and adjust is not a terrible piece of advice. Or just like climbing a little bit below your grade. To that point, if you do get on test, you're going to gain some weight. And like, that's awesome and that feels really cool, but it will have an impact for you on the wall. The way you move will be different. Your ability to push grades will probably diminish with another 10 pounds on your frame. And you can diet that away really easily and cut that fat and use that to hold on to that extra tissue. But, you know, in the beginning, it's not a bad idea to hold back while you reacclimate to the body that you are now going to be inhabiting. Last but not least, you just had labs, you've been doing all this work, plan for follow-ups, because things will change. You need to make sure that your diet is going to lead to good blood markers going forward. You need to keep, like, do you have to worry about, like, high estrogenic effects if you're not feeling symptoms of it? No, I think estrogen is super protective, both mentally and in terms of hair and collagen synthesis. But you don't want to crush it into the ground, and you want to at least have a plan B in case, you know? Have a plan to double check on your health regardless, because ultimately that will determine how long you can push doses if that's what you plan to do, or at least be checking in on your blood markers every 3 to 6 months if you're on TRT, and just keep things consistent. In general, you could always take more, you can never take less. I'd start at 120, then bump to 150, then bump to 200 plus if you must. But I think for optimal climbing performance with minimal weight gain, I would say you're probably best off going to 120, maybe 150 tops. And that's more than enough to limit the size that you're going to get while keeping basically all your tissue in a deficit. And that's kind of what most of us are after. If you're trying to get bigger, then yeah, you can push it. But really just trying to minimize the weight gain, I think would be super optimal. Anyway, now that you have followed hopefully all these steps, you have my seal of approval to come over to the dark side, in which case, if you've joined us, welcome to the club. Love to have you. And if you appreciate safety tips and guidance like this, please do not forget to like and subscribe. If you see all this and you're getting nervous and you want to go on this journey, but you're afraid to do it alone, drop me an email, man. Happy to guide you along the way. Definitely open to like taking some coaching clients. And even if you just want to like shoot me some questions and have a one-on-one, absolutely open to that. So, as per usual, this is Adam with Anabolic Climbing saying happy sending. Cheers to experimentation. Be safe as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.